The larger boats were a little more problematic. And this is when we started scratching our heads saying, well, how did they get them in here? Because they're way too wide to fit through the breezeway. And we had all sorts of ideas, like, oh, let's do a sling load. Let's put them on a helicopter and fly them outside. You know, and the simplest solution was the right solution, which is you could just take out the breezeway. Again, at some point, that was added in with no consideration for the fact that we had these objects on display that we couldn't get out. So we got the breezeway, the glass doors taken out and stuff, and then moved the Wen, the music temple, the Esmeralda, out of there. The Esmeralda actually was the biggest challenge, and she was really heavy. And it took 2 forklifts and some other things. We've had a lot of good publicity on this, a lot of interest in the project, and really and truly addressing river running history and how these crafts themselves can tell so many stories to our visitors today. Part of the project, and it's already been mentioned, is the line to Jonathan Todd Block out of San Francisco Maritime and working with Cam Stavely on getting the drawings for all of these boats, so we have actual and accurate records, line drawings of each and every one of the boats. And that takes us from the courtyard, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the meticulous nature of conservation.
So to briefly explain my role as a National Park Service conservator, I specialize in the preservation of cultural property. I assist parks across the West with preservation of their museum collections. And conservation activities include examination, documentation, treatment, and preventive care, supported by research and education. I follow a strict code of ethics that were created by our national membership organization, the American Institute for the Conservation of Historic and Artistic Works. I'll be describing these terms throughout the talk in the context of the steps involved in this conservation project. In assessing the need for conservation treatment, the examination process involves the investigation of the structure, materials, and condition of the artifacts, including the identification of the extent and causes of alteration and deterioration. So we're really looking scientifically at each material type in the object to analyze its state of preservation at the present moment. We document this information in a report that includes any proposed treatment to address the need for stabilization. So in the case of this boat, the Edith on the left, I'm looking at the paint on the wood to determine the treatment strategy. So there are also metal components on this boat, painted canvas and bare wood, that will also all get individual treatment strategies. So we document the appearance of the object through detailed photographs seen on the right before treatment, so there's a photographic record of the object before any conservation treatment begins. Photos are also taken during and after treatment. So while in the courtyard, the boat suffered from surface damage, but luckily they were in great structural condition. The initial phase began with a thorough cleaning using a brush and vacuum that we call dry cleaning. These are the 3 oldest wooden boats in the cleaning process with some of the Park Museum staff. They were extremely dirty with over 40 years of accumulated dirt, dust, lint, and hair. And you can get a good look at the new cradles on there too. So this is a detail of the stone boat's cockpit on the left before and after the dry cleaning. So basically, all the loose stuff has been picked up. And on the right is one of the top canvas decks, and that square there has not been cleaned. So that's the dusty layer that is just there, just so you can see the difference. So as one of the conservation activities I listed earlier, treatment is the deliberate alteration of the chemical or physical aspects of cultural property, aimed at primarily prolonging its existence. Treatment within the National Park Service focuses on stabilization, not restoration, as Q mentioned earlier. Stabilization is intended to maintain the integrity of cultural property and to minimize deterioration. Restoration, on the other hand, is intended to return an item to a known or assumed state, often through the addition of non-original materials. So we're not going to be repainting or replacing any elements that are missing. After removing the thick layer of dirt, we began to see what was really underneath. The boats were poorly coated with linseed oil in the 1960s as a well-intended preservation attempt. This is one of my volunteers picking off lint and hair that stuck to the semi-hard oil. And most of this loose lint and hairs and things were on the sides of the boats that were along the walls in the courtyard. So if you can imagine the physics of, wind and everything going underneath the boats and up the walls. So those sides were just incredibly dirty. Funny though how my volunteer never came back again. He gave her the wrong job. But she was very good at it. So the linseed oil coating that accumulated as drips were removed by shaving with a scalpel. As seen on the detail on the left, drips formed everywhere they could. It's pretty tedious what we do sometimes. Two of the oldest boats had extensive tears on the canvas-covered decks. We have the Edith on the left and the stone boat on the right. So on the right, we're just sort of lifting up that part of the canvas. This section of canvas on the Edith, you see on the upper left, has lowered over the years due to this long tear that goes along the top. The arrows are. I humidified the area and flattened the distortions, dried it for realignment, and then set it back in place with a heat-set adhesive film and a muslin backing. So on the right, on the bottom, is the area that's repaired. And so it basically lines up again, and some of the space where the tear was still open has been toned just to sort of match the color that we see on the canvas. The instability of the paint on most of the boats has been a big concern as well. Due to the outside storage with sun, wind, air conditioner exhaust, and water runoff, the paint on many of the boats, especially the oldest ones, had worn thin and lost much of its original binder. With the Glen boat, we have staining seen here from close proximity with the air conditioner. So on the top, you see there's the air conditioner, and so this is the staining that occurred where that air conditioner was located. And I'll be talking about the cleaning process next, but there's sort of a before and after of getting rid of all that nasty white residue staining. But you can also see the difference in the deck too, how that's been cleaned. Let's see that next. For the painted wood surfaces, we added a synthetic adhesive to consolidate the paint layer using an airbrush. So this is basically reintroducing the binder that will hold the paint to the wood again. In many cases, like as in the Edith, if you just ran your finger across that painted surface, you'd get little paint chips on your finger. So basically, we're adding the binder back there so it will keep that paint in place. And on the right is the wet cleaning that was done on the canvas decks and also on some of the sides of the painted wood to remove years of loose dirt. In some cases, we just use warm water to pick it up, and in other cases, we use warm water, then a pH-balanced custom chemical mixture, followed by a water rinse. So you can really see the contrast in the paint layers from the wear and tear due to its use on the river. This is a hatch lid on the Glen, and you can see this was one of the most severe flaking paint areas. And so this is sort of tenting paint where it's cracked and then it rises up like a tent. It also cups a little bit. This is sort of in the realm of paintings conservation, which I've experienced in as well. And there's also all these drips and stains and everything all over it. You can't even tell what color it is. So the paint flakes were set down actually with heat and then secured in place, and then the surface was cleaned. So on the bottom is a detail of the same area. So most of those paint flakes were able to get down back into plane with the wood. And so on the top right, it's sort of just a shot looking across, so you don't see all that crazy tinting paint anymore. That was really nice. And the person doing this work is a conservation intern from one of the conservation